ask you to join with me in prayer to our Father God, creator of all life. Father God, we meet in your presence today, and even though each may address you by different names, we are as one in a very special brotherhood that unites us all. We ask for your guidance and care as we continue our work together, work that can be a challenge at times, but we accept willingly because we look to it for a greater understanding of each other and of the needs of our community, so that we can achieve harmony, peace and prosperity by working together as one for the greater good of all. May we go forward with your blessing, and our commitment to you this day give the encouragement and strength we all need to carry it through, with the serenity to accept those things we cannot change, the courage to change the things that we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. We give our thanks for everything you have already given us, for the knowledge that you are always with us and within us, so that as we move through our daily lives, we are surrounded by your loving care. May we always feel this awareness of your great and powerful love. Amen.
We are not expecting a fire drill this evening, so if the fire alarm sounds, please leave the chamber and gather outside W.H. Smith's. Members will have seen the sad news about the death of former councillor and Mayor Ernest Crook and the former Mayoress Eileen Riley. Please stand and join me in a minute's silence to remember them. Thank you. Thank you. Please bear with us if you don't have a microphone and want to speak. Officers will bring you a unit. I'm afraid that's about the best we can do tonight. There is a number of awards which I would like to tell you about so that we can celebrate them together. We have representatives from some of the organisations who fought the fires on Winter Hill. I'd like the representatives from Lancashire County Fire and Rescue, Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue, Bolton Council's Neighbourhood Services like Regulatory Services and Highways team, Bolton Mountain Rescue, to come forward, please? First of all, I would like to acknowledge that there have been many more organisations, both locally and nationally, who have been involved in this tremendous effort to protect these fires. I would like to express my sincere thanks to all involved on behalf of the people of Bolton. You have worked incredibly hard in extremely difficult conditions. Thank you all. It's been an amazing team effort. Can we show these wonderful people our appreciation with another round of applause? I think Clark will get some photos, don't we? What do you want me to do?
Stay where you are, man. Gentlemen, if you could come forward, please, sir. Yourself as well, sir. Gentlemen at the back there, could you come near to the mayor, please? Please, both of you. Two of you. Come beside, sir, please. I'd like a line that way, please. That way. Brilliant. You go that way, sir, please. Thank you. Thank you. More. Okay, sir. You go sideways, please, gentlemen. Please, we're all wide. This way. Look here, sir. Look here. Thank you.
Can I just say, while he's busy sorting out, if you all like to go over to Harvey's after, and I think there's been a drink arranged for you over there. Okay.
The microphone. It's got a red light on.
I know, I'm trying to switch it off, sorry. Okay, all right. It's very uncomfortable, but I'll do that. Okay. Okay, the winners of the People's Champion Award, Simone Livertis, I hope I've said it right. Oh, thank you. Is with us with her manager, Chris Parker. Simone and Chris, please come forward. Greater Manchester recently held their first ever championship awards. The People's Championship Award went to Simone, who is one of Bolton's social workers seconded into the seconded into the Mental Health Trust from the council. Well done, Simone. Could we have a round of applause? Congratulations, thank you.
No, yourself here, yourself. All right. You this side. Okay. Really. Back a little bit, please. Thank you.
Okay. Is that all right, Eric?
And again. More. Please. And again. Last one. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Harry. Thank you. Thanks. All the best. Well done.
Madam Mayor, the next item of business is to consider conferring the title of Honorary Alderman on Mr Anthony Noel Spencer.
Councillor Mrs Thomas.
Sorry, it's a bit wobbly now. Right, it only seemed 2 minutes ago that we were actually saying an unofficial goodbye to Noel, or Councillor Noel Spencer as he was. Some of you may not know, especially some of the newer people, that Noel was a councillor in Halliwell in the 70s. Then he came back to us in 1992, I think, as the Farmers Councillor, and he was there until he retired. And I've often referred to Noel because I've had to introduce him as mayor. I've often said that Noel is a man of the people. And right to the day that retired, and even now, I still think he's a man of the people because he just he loved what he did and he loved why he was doing it. And anyone that knows Noel knows how sincere he was. Noel did so much for housing. I was very fortunate from 96. I was Noel's vice chair for 4 years when we had a housing committee. And I can't tell you how much work that man did in that time for the people and the tenants of the town. And he raised the level of housing in the town, I believe. He raised it to a regional and a national level. And although he was quite a quiet guy, he certainly drove it from behind the scenes. So I'm absolutely delighted that although I said an unofficial personal farewell to him at a private meeting, I'm able to officially say thank you. And I think there's no greater way of officially thanking you than making you an alderman of the town. And hopefully then we can see a lot more of you, because I'm quite sure that you'll come back and support us and support the mayor in all the charity work. And I'm just delighted that we can recognise that the amount of work that you've done, not just for the council, but for the people in general. And let's be fair, if Noel didn't help you in casework, you knew him because he sang to you. And so we've not lost that bit as well. And those who know who he sings, who he likes to sing for, Noel did it his way. Okay, so congratulations, Noel, and we look forward to seeing you, and I hope that you will bring Alice, who was a former mayoress, along with you to all occasions. Thank you.
Councillor Greenhalgh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and it's with great pleasure that I second this proposal this evening. This is certainly one of the more pleasurable tasks that we all have the opportunity of doing in this chamber, where we recognise, no matter for whatever political party, whatever, we recognise the level of service that someone has given, not only to the residents of the ward they represent, but to this town and to this chamber. And no one is perhaps more fitting of this honour than Noel. Noel is, as Linda has said, he is, I would describe as a real, genuine guy. He is certainly one of those that even during all our most, dare I say, blue periods, well, shouldn't really call it blue really, but red periods, whatever, when we've been at our most confrontational, you could pass Noel in the corridor, normally in his grey suit and his long coat, And he'd go, hiya David, are you all right? And you'd reply, and he would just be genuine. You could have a chat. And he is a lovely person. It's lovely to see Alice here tonight as well, who were wonderful ambassadors of this town when they were mayor and mayoress. So I have great pleasure, and I'm sure from all on this side, in seconding this proposal this evening, with our warmest wishes to Noel and to Alice. Well deserved. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? The motion is carried. Honorary Alderman Anthony Noel Spencer, will you please receive this scroll from the Council in recognition of your past service to this authority? Would you like to say a few words? Wherever you like.
Madam Mayor, can I just say how proud, how honoured I feel by receiving this award and to be made an honorary alderman for this great borough of Bolton. Can I just thank the leader, the council, and the leader of the opposition for their kind words. And I'm really very, very proud to be joining such a distinguished band of brothers and sisters who, in looking back in recent days to the old borough council of the old days, and to see the number of aldermen that were on the council on a regular basis. I think there were 23 and 69 councillors on the old borough council. And some of those names brought back wonderful, wonderful memories of my relatively short service on the old borough council. But I'd just like to say a big, big thank you for my years, for all the support that I've had from the staff of Bolton Council. They've been dedicated, committed, and really, really, I'm really grateful and thankful for the service that I've received, and I know many other members have as well, from our wonderful, wonderful staff. And it's not something that I ever thought I would achieve, but I'm so proud and honoured to have been given this role as honorary alderman. And a big, big thank you to each and every one of you. Thank you. Is that okay, Madam Mayor?
Madam Mayor, the next item of business is to consider conferring the title of Honorary Alderwoman on Mrs. Linda Byrne.
Councillor Newall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. It's my very great pleasure to move the motion that Linda Byrne be conferred with the title of Honorary Alderwoman of the Borough of Bolton. Not just Alderwoman of Bolton, but the first Alderwoman of Bolton. So many aspects of Linda's political career have involved firsts. She was the first female and the first Labour councillor for Bradshaw Ward. She was the first woman mayor to succeed another woman mayor, and she was part of the first husband and wife team to both be mayors of Bolton. Linda has given a first-class service all the way. She was a first-class candidate, she was a first-class councillor and a first-class mayor. I'm also very proud to say that Linda is my friend, and she's a first-class friend too. Linda was my ward colleague in Braitmet, and her and John provided me with friendship and companionship and help, and I do appreciate everything you've done for me in the ward. I'm proud to have Linda as a friend and a colleague, but you know when you think about a councillor and a word, just one word jumps into your mind, sometimes that word might not be a good one. But with Linda it is, because the first word I think of when I think of Linda is kind. Linda is a very kind person, and she's a shining example for women everywhere who aspire to have a political career. This honour is richly deserved, so well done, Linda. I move this motion. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Fairclough.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, I'm delighted to be able to second this motion. The only problem with coming second, of course, is that most things have been said and you've got to start looking for something different. But it's not that hard really with Linda, because obviously I was very proud to have been able to nominate her as Mayor only 2 years ago, not very long. And that was a job that I was very, very proud to do. And I, like Councillor Newhall, I was looking at Linda's progress. As you say, I won't go through the number of firsts that you are. You're obviously very good at that, and you are now going to be the first alderwoman of this borough. But I do know that during your time as a councillor, you've served in 3 different wards, 3 different wards politically really, because different areas, different types of people, and you've blended in so very, very well in all 3. It's very difficult to, I'm sorry to speak to you, but speaking about somebody else, I don't know who I'm supposed to be speaking to. Anyway, I just wanted really to say that I've asked around, and clearly everybody feels the same. You have been a very kind, very dedicated and a very committed councillor, and I am really pleased to see that you are going on, even though it isn't within the council. You know, you're going to you're working already at the hospice and other things, and I'm sure that it in many ways will be our loss and the wider community's gain. So I'm very, very pleased to second the motion for you to be honorary alderwoman, sorry, get it right.
Those in favour say aye. Aye. Anybody against? Any abstentions? Oh, I'm pleased that I'd like to have Linda come. Oh, the motion's carried, that's it, sorry. Honorary Alderman Linda Byrne will be pleased to receive this scroll from the Council in recognition of past service to the authority. Linda's going to say a few words now. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, it's with great pride that I accept this award. As you all know, I've not finished really because the Mayor has quite kindly allowed me to work on, with her team on the charity committee. So I still feel as though I am doing a little bit anyway. And that's apart from the voluntary work I'm doing at the hospice 1 day a week. In a way, I feel I owe this award to the people of Brightmate because it's them that actually voted for me year on year. And if it hadn't been for them, I wouldn't be getting this award. I wouldn't be here now. So thank you to everybody. Thanks to all the people in this room who I've made great friends with. And we'll be staying in touch, that's for definite. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, that concludes the business of the extraordinary meeting of the Council, and we now proceed to the ordinary business.
Are there any declarations of interest?
Madam Mayor, the next item of business is to confirm the minutes of the last meeting of the Council.
Are the minutes approved? Just need to sign it here.
Madam Mayor, the next item of business is to consider a motion in the name of Councillor Mrs Thomas relating to executive decisions.
Councillor Mrs Thomas.
Could I move that the quarterly report on executive decisions made under the special urgency provisions be noted?
Councillor Adia.
Madam Mayor, happy to second.
Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions?
Madam Mayor, the next item of business is to consider a motion in the name of Councillor McKeon relating to changes in committee membership and appointments to other bodies.
Councillor McKeon.
I rise to move that the changes in committee membership itemised in Appendix 1 be approved.
Councillor Morgan.
May I formally second the motion?
Those in favour? Those against? Any abstentions? The motion is carried.
Madam Mayor, the next item of business is questions under Standing Order 9A.
Councillor Peel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It occurred to me when I was just looking on my notes for this question. I can't remember the last time I actually asked a question in this chamber. I'm usually the person answering them, as we see from the order paper later on. But if you notice the date on the order paper, I actually put this in on the 25th of July, and I wanted it to be the first one on because I didn't know we were going to have the extraordinary meeting at the time, and I thought our volunteers might have still been with us. But I think they've had a better offer, which I'll come to in a moment. When I did write the question, those fires were still smouldering, but we've obviously had a bit of rain in the last few weeks, and that's helped solve the problem. But I felt, Madam Mayor, that this meeting should not go by without the full thanks and support of the entire council being expressed towards our firefighters, not just from GM, but from further afield, members of the UK Armed Forces, council employees, Bolton Mountain Rescue, and other volunteers who gave their all into bringing the situation under control. And I'm particularly pleased, Madam Mayor, that representatives of these services have been thanked personally in this chamber by yourself at the start of the meeting. We all acknowledge the commitment, bravery and fortitude of these men and women, although, as I say, I don't think that bravery would really stretch to remaining in this chamber longer than is necessary. It would take a brave soul to sit with us for the next few hours, and there's a few brave souls at the back and in the balcony. Therefore, I'm very pleased that they have been given a well-deserved reason to escape from us tonight and to go to Harvey's Bar at Maudsley Street for an equally well-deserved free drink of their choice. Madam Mayor, I ask the leader the question as is written on the order paper. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. It is just a great pity that the guys are not still here to actually hear us congratulate them. Obviously, they've had a better offer. But I think it's incumbent on us as a council to put on record our personal and, as it says in the motion, our heartfelt gratitude. We're absolutely indebted to them. And I can't remember, because perhaps others can, I can't remember a fire as serious as this burning up on the moorlands in my memory of living in Bolton. And we were living in extraordinary times, and I think the firemen are an incredibly dedicated group of people at any time. But I think this was over and above the call of duty, what they did. They almost saved us, didn't they? Because if that fire had gone any further, that would have been very detrimental to many, many people. So again, we would like to thank them, and also like to thank the Bolton Council's neighbourhood services and the Bolton Mountain Rescue as well, who played their part. And again, we'd like to put on record our gratitude, our thanks. We know this is all in a day's work for a fireman, but we are absolutely amazed at what they actually did. And I think they'll go down in folklore, in Bolton history, for what they did up there on the moors for us, which are a very, very special place to us. And of course, obviously, we had the knock-on effect of the Iron Man, where we had to redirect everything. But nevertheless, the Iron Man went ahead, and thank goodness that did, because that is a global event, and that would have looked really bad if we'd had to stop because of what people might see as a fire. So again, thank you to the firemen and all the other services for what they did. And I'd just like to, I hope that the whole of the council can get behind us on this one in sending out our thanks. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be quite brief with this one. It came about from a few petitions we had in the summer, which became a little bit confusing when people were shouting out when they ran the petitions in, and we wanted to formalise this in some way. So a Brakeman resident actually asked me the questions on what's on the order paper, and rather than read it out, I know we've got 24 questions today, I'll take it that you've read that, and the leader will explain. Thank you.
Councillor Byrne, and can I ask Councillor Thomas, Mrs Thomas, to respond?
Thank you for that. Yeah, this is about when people hand in petitions, allowing them a small amount of time to explain what the petition is about and to give them the opportunity to show how important it is to them and their cause. We did say we would discuss it at a policy development group, and we did in June, and I think several of the leaders of the party and other leading councillors were actually at that meeting. And the recommendation, it was unanimous from that group, that we should allow petitioners to speak for a few minutes when presenting their petition. The advice from officers was that this could be achieved without amending the petition scheme or standing orders. This could then be monitored, and formal changes to the scheme and standing orders would be informed then by the experience. So, yes, and if somebody had come with a petition tonight, we would have allowed them to have a few words, because that is the whole point of policy development groups. When you come up with a good idea and it's unanimous, if we can deliver it straight away without any red tape, then we'll get on and do it. So thank you to everybody who supported that, and we look forward to hearing from petitioners when they do come forward with particular issues. Thank you.
Councillor Pattison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It was reported on the 5th of July 2018 that 9 authorities, including Bolton Metropolitan Borough Council, would share a dividend of 32.1 million from the Manchester Airport Group. My party estimates suggest that Bolton Metropolitan Borough Council should have received approximately 3.56 million. In respect of the Manchester Airport Group dividend, Manchester City Council announced, and I quote, "This money will be used in full to support council services, in particular those of the most vulnerable, children and adults, helping to offset other financial pressures." It was also reported that other councils across the region, most of whom are also suffering major pressures on their social services departments, will share the remainder of the 32 million between them, again helping offset the impact of continued squeezed budgets. 4 days after the Manchester Airport dividend was published, Bolton Metropolitan Borough Council announced that it would be removing council services from the Children's Centre on Birch Road in Kersler. A sportswoman is quoted as saying, "Our intention is to still have children's services provided from the council," sorry, I'm shaking here, building, but run by organisations in the community. The current council services will move to the refurbished King Street to join with local health services in a new Startwell Centre for families and young people, who will work in partnership with local providers to ensure continued use and delivery of services for families from Kersler. We calculate that Kersler's share of the Manchester Airport dividend is approximately 144,000. Could the leader of the council confirm exactly where Kersler's share of Manchester Airport dividend is being spent, and also how much the council, I can't believe I'm shaking, sorry, and how much the council will be funding the organisations in the community that is hoped that will fill the gap in the stated removed services from children's centres. Thank you. What's all that about?
Right, sorry. Councillor Mrs Thomas.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor, councillors. First of all, perhaps I can give a little bit of background to children's centres, because I do appreciate you weren't on the council when we did all the things, and I think it's a bit unfair not to say that, because my answer to you might then sound as though I think that you do understand it all. When we looked at children's centres, we were one of the few councils that maintained children's centres throughout, when all other councils were getting rid of theirs, basically. We'd lost £14 million in 1 year in early intervention money, and that comes out of children's services budget. It comes out sort of the preventative side of children's services budget. The statutory side, we have to deliver children's social services. So what we were looking at when we look at our children's centres that are in that block was, how do we preserve them as best we can? So we kept all the hubs, so that the hubs are all that cover the town. And what we did with our satellites were, we offered them to places like schools, community groups, and we said, we have a building here that we want to continue to be used, we want you to use it for community, what can you do? And I'll give you an example of one that I think has really risen to the challenge. I can't talk about all of them, and really come up trumps, and that's Crompton. Crompton Children's Centre is next to the Valley School, and myself, Councillor Cunliffe and Councillor Murray as Children's Champion have been round to see some of these satellites to make sure that they are delivering what we hope they would deliver. And I think Crompton was a fantastic example, because now they have 2-year-old provision in there, they have provision for children with special needs, they have health provision, and they also have community provision. So they're continuing the good work that was happening there, but they've given added value to it. Now Kersley, and the south side of the borough, the actual children's centre that we had at one time was, the other one was in Kersley, it was in Grosvenor Nursery. They decided to take on board all the community side, they put 2-year-old provision in, but I don't think we could designate them as a children's centre hub, because there's 1 or 2 elements that weren't available. So what we decided, and I don't think there's any council in the country that's done that, we decided we would open a brand new children's centre. And so we did that because of the location of Farnworth, and because we were already looking at how we could start prioritising support for Farnworth. We decided we would designate what was a youth service provision. We would refurbish it, expand it. We talked to health professionals. And as you know, that is going to be a brand new health children's centre, or Startwell Centre as we're going to call them, very shortly. I think in the new year they should be nearly ready. So what do we do about Kersley? Because Kersley was operating as the children's centre for the whole of that area. So now what we've done is we've put, like we've done with all the other satellites, because it was a satellite, we've currently put out expressions of interest from providers who would want to use a building and provide services. And I'm sure there is an awful lot of people down there who want to provide early years services. We're working with schools and other groups to maintain and develop provision across the authority, including Kersley. And it would be great, Councillor Patterson, as now you are a community ambassador, if you know of any groups, or you can go down and talk to groups and get them involved and say there is a building here that we can use. Many community groups will bite your hand off for that, and I can't think of anywhere else in the country where they might get that offer. I'm looking at the other councillor for Kersley. I hope you all do the same. You refer to the airport dividend. As I say, we lost 14 million of our early intervention money in one fell swoop. And what we've always done with the airport dividend, instead of putting it all in the pot, we've always put £1 million in the pot to support our services. And one of the big services that always needs supporting is children's services. Before you came on the council last year, we were in £4 million worth of debt in children's services, and we had to intervene, and we had to ask the council taxpayers of Bolton. And the reason for that is it's a need-led service. We have about 630 looked after children, but we also have, and I have to say, if you go to Farnworth, to where they are based, not only do we have that as borough-wide, we have about 600 referrals in the south of the borough for children that have needs, perhaps that don't need bringing into council care, but certainly have needs. So I would say that we spend an inordinate amount of our basic council tax money on that particular area in your neck of the woods. So to start carving up 140 odd here, I think you probably have had that 10 times over in your area for children's services in early years in the town. So I'm a bit low to start chunking up, because then other councils will say, well, where's my bit? And then somebody else will say, well, we pay an awful lot of business rates and council tax. We think we should get more. But you see, as a town and as a Bolton family, we look after where the need is greatest. And we have no compunction not to come to Farnworth and Kersley and any other disadvantaged areas and say, we need to spend extra money here. We need to spend extra council tax money, extra business rates money here, because this is where the need is. And that is first and foremost what we have to do. So in the spirit...
Councillor Thomas, sorry, but can you sum up,
so
please?
So I was going to say, in the spirit of that, I hope that you'll understand we are not trying to deprive Kersley of any money. We're actually trying to give you something more back.
Councillor Hornby.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, Manchester Airport, of which this Council is a part owner, on the 10th of July introduced a drop-off charge for vehicles dropping off passengers
at the terminals. The cost being the cost being £3 for up to 5 minutes and £4 for up to 10 minutes. Many drivers have been caught out with a £25 plus charge due to it taking longer than 10 minutes to exit the drop-off zone at the terminal. This could lead to passengers choosing to use alternative airports in the northwest to travel instead of Manchester Airport, which in my opinion is one of the finest airports in the country. Could the Deputy Leader of the Council take up my concerns with the Airport Authority, of which he sits on, and see what steps can be taken to either scrap the charge or alternatively ensure that vehicle users are not charged additional amounts when they are attempting to exit the terminals? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Adia.
Thank you, Madam Members of the Council. Just to start off by saying, the leaders just reminded me that we should have congratulated Councillor Patterson. We believe it's a maiden speech, so congratulations. In relation to Councillor Hornby's question, I'd be happy to take away the concerns that have been raised, and I'll revert to Councillor Hornby in writing once I have an answer. Thank you.
Councillor Gibbon.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, the development of Bolton Town Centre will not only bring a much-needed boost to the local economy, but will also bring added pressure on the borough's services to the public. One of those services, shop mobility, is in need of a review at the present time. Since its relocation from Le Mans Crescent to the NCP car park on Top Way, there has been a 70% reduction in use by the public. The repair facility given by Bolton Workshops has been removed, and at this present time, 1/3 of the mobility scooters are in need of repair. When a breakdown occurs, the defective machine has to be pushed and manhandled back to the centre. It is not a safe and satisfactory situation excuse me, and must be rectified. On a recent visit to the facility by myself and Councillor Hornby, we witnessed first-hand of such a breakdown. It is rumoured that provision for the shop mobility service must have been made in the new transport interchange. If this is the case, why has the facility not been relocated, and when will it be? Can the Leader of the Council assure this Council that this essential service for the elderly and infirm will be closely examined and brought up to the standard that the people of this borough expect, and will not be discontinued as a result of government cuts?
Councillor Newell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council. Councillor Gibbon, I'd like to answer your question in a couple of parts, if I may. Firstly, that there are areas of it which I will need to investigate, so I hope you'll bear with me and let me make inquiries and then contact you directly. I'm thinking about your queries about the repairs, so if you'll bear with me, I will come back to you and contact you directly. But the shop mobility it is actually a charity. It's actually a charity. It receives grants from the council, but Shop Mobility is a charity. And it's a charity that helps people who consider themselves to have mobility problems, as you know. I have personal experience of what a valuable asset mobility and mobility scooters are. My husband's fortunate enough to own his own scooter, but some people don't, and they depend on services like this. But it is a charity. It helps people retain the dignity and autonomy and mobility. And we're very fortunate in Bolton because not all boroughs have this scheme. It's run in Rochdale, it's run in Manchester, it's run in parts of Trafford, it's run at the Trafford Centre, and of course it's run in Bolton. There's always room for improvement. I'd be the first to say that, and any kind of service like this should always be monitored so that it can be continually evaluated and see where we can improve if we can. But as I say, it is a charity. Regarding their move, because they are a charity, I'm presuming, but this is one of the things I will check. They didn't move because they didn't want to move. But I will check that and come back to you. They've got to take into account the requirement of the service users, and I agree with you that the regeneration plans for the town centre offer us a fabulous opportunity to further enhance facilities to ensure that all our citizens get full use of all our facilities in the future. I'll certainly investigate the plans for the improvement of disabled facilities in our town with the regeneration, and I'm happy to investigate further and feedback. With regard to your point about government cuts and protecting things like this, I will protect services like this with the last breath in my body. But if you want to talk about government cuts and cuts to services to Bolton and elsewhere, you need to speak to your friends over there, because they are the people who are responsible for cutting funds to this borough year in and year out. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How does this council justify a cost of £878.27 to the taxpayers of Bolton for the removal of rubbish left behind by travellers on Leverhulme Park on the 24th of May 2018, when the travellers didn't leave until the 26th of May and volunteers removed all rubbish on the 27th of May. This was bagged by volunteers and collected by council employees on the same day as they were en route to their usual bin emptying collection on the park, with volunteers assisting loading the waste onto the wagon. At no point did the employees note how much waste was loaded. Thank you.
Councillor Peel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is quite a good example of a question that's been asked without the questioner having full knowledge or full possession of the facts. And time and time again we do see in this chamber opportunities for members to sit down with officers and to discuss issues like this, rather than bringing a question to the chamber with incorrect allegations. Because the first point to this question is that she ascertains that the cost of £878.27 was for the collection and removal of the waste at Leverhulme Park. It wasn't. I'll give you the breakdown. There's internal costs, which I'll do first. So the internal costs within the council, vehicle and labour associated with the clean-up, that was just £175. Visit by dog warden in conjunction with gypsy liaison officer, £87.55. Team leader time, which is site management and supervision, £51.50. The external costs are the biggest lump of this. Cost of the repair to a damaged barrier was £200, and the estimation of waste disposal costs for the council, which is the amount that we have to pay as a tipping cost, a landfill cost, for any rubbish that goes to landfill. That was £364.22. And that final figure is by far the largest. And again, unfortunately, it's quite worryingly, and it's what I've long suspected, that Conservative councillors, Madam Mayor, really do struggle to get their heads around the fact that the costs associated with getting rid of waste or rubbish isn't collection costs, it's disposal costs. The disposal costs that hit councils are phenomenal. The collection costs, the actual cost of manpower, vehicles, etc., is well contained within our budget. The second incorrect statement that she makes, therefore, is that 872 is the cost of the taxpayer. Well, it isn't, because I've already pointed out in the breakdown, £313 of that is internal costs, so it's already within the departmental budget, the budget that's there for such occasions. The remainder are external, but that biggest amount, as I said, is waste disposal costs, which hits this council and hits every other council whenever we do these types of clean-ups. We have had a motion in the past asking government to forfeit landfill charges on waste disposal costs. They never bothered to get back to us. We sent another motion and they never bothered to get back to us. So I'm not really sure what we should do with that. But that's the answer to the question, Madam Mayor. And I'm happy, in case people didn't write that down, if people want to contact me and ask for the breakdown of costs, I can email that over. Thank Thank you.
Councillor Kirk Robinson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, recently I've seen young adults walking around the town wearing hoodies with defaced numbers on them. The numbers are printed in a bold, angular font and display numbers such as 55, 69 or 88, which will become a problem in a moment. In each case, the numbers have been distressed or otherwise damaged so that at a distance, the hoodie appears to have a swastika on it. Of course, the number 88 becomes very problematic at that point, since 88 is a code used by some extreme right neo-Nazis on the internet to get around filters. Madam Mayor, 50 million people died as a result of the monsters who marched under the swastika in the 30s and 40s, and to see that symbol worn on our streets, even in an underhanded manner like this, is unacceptable. This covert display of a racist symbol has no place in Bolton. I therefore ask the Cabinet Member to join me in condemning this disgusting racist display in the strongest terms, and to ask for assurance that the Council will work with all of our partners to put an end to this practice.
Councillor Zama.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the Council. Thank you for bringing this very serious matter to my attention, Councillor Kirk Robinson. As the lead member for Community Cohesion, I wanted to clearly state that this is wrong and very worrying. Over the years, we have worked very hard for community cohesion in our town, and we will not allow anybody to spoil that. We will work with our partners to end this as a matter of urgency. Thank you, Madam.
Councillor Galloway.
Thank you, Mayor. I wish to ask about the maintenance of larger areas of council-owned land in Heaton and Lostock Ward. I'd thought that we'd reached the bare minimum of maintenance by only having these areas mowed twice a year, but I was wrong, as we've been told that due to the latest cuts, some of these areas are to be abandoned altogether. Was there any consultation over this policy, and was it announced anywhere? The residents living next to the area certainly didn't know about it, and they've been waiting in vain all year for the mowers to turn up. And there's one estate in particular that will be adversely affected by the new policy, as there is a piece of land at the entrance to the estate of over 200 homes in Lostock at the junction with Beaumont Road. And the patch of land there is to make the development look an attractive place to live and to provide a community asset for children to play safely. It's now a wasteland with weeds 4 feet high. Unlike every other ward in Bolton, Heaton and Lostock doesn't have any parks or playgrounds or children's centres. And now this recreational space is being abandoned. And I know there are budget cuts, but the houses on this small estate, they're in high tax bands, and they contribute nearly £500,000 a year in council tax. And I don't think it is too much to ask that the council continues to cover the cost of around 4 hours' work a year for a man on a ride-on mower to continue to mow this piece of council-owned land. Thank you.
Councillor Peel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Quite a lot of councillors in this chamber have a theme or a niche. It's their thing. Immediate examples I can think of, Councillor Murray, she's very well known, looks after children issues. Councillor Critchley, that's the man you go to for trains and things to do with structures and bridges. It appears that Councillor Galloway's niche is grass, as this is the second question she's asked on grass since being elected, but I'm not mocking. I do appreciate that may well be a number one issue in your ward. But we need to just go back in time a little, back to 2010, when we first started these deep cuts to services, following the introduction of austerity across the country. And we introduced what's known as a conservation regime. So I'll explain what a conservation regime is in terms of grounds maintenance. It's put simply those areas of land that, due to their nature, are better suited not to be manicured lawns, but allowed to grow more wildly, in the interest of providing a more natural habitat for wildlife, insects and wildflowers. And we do this in quite a lot of inner urban areas in this conurbation, whilst always ensuring that the perimeters and desire lines are maintained and cut. If members travel in most areas of Bolton, you will see areas like this. A lot of the roundabouts, for example, are mini little wildlife havens. And we never sought any positive feedback for this move, but we've actually received over the years quite a lot of positive feedback from residents who prefer the more natural look of some of the inner open land rather than shortcut lawns. I appreciate it's a bit of a cultural change for a lot of people, but I'm quite a big fan of this, and having recently moved house and got a garden, which I never had before, I'm getting quite interested in this area. And natural habitat for a lot of things like butterflies and bees are actually declining in this country. And if the council can do its bit, just in a small way, of providing more natural habitat, that is a good thing. Now, we've continued to roll out the programme where appropriate, and the latest proposals that Councillor Galloway refers to are part of the government service cuts that were implemented after November 2017. In terms of the land at the entrance to Glengarth Drive, that's been reviewed on 2 occasions. It's a heavily planted piece of land, and it has been assessed as not suitable for informal recreation, and it's therefore in keeping with this conservation approach that's been taken in other areas to create a more natural wildlife habitat in the urban area. Now, finally, Madam Mayor, Councillor Galloway asked what discussions and consultations took place with those elected members before implementation. Well, I'm sorry, but this is a bit of an own goal, because if she had asked her colleagues, I'm sure that they would have told her that all such proposals firstly go to a policy development group, where all opposition members are present. There is then a 60-day consultation period before any service cuts are implemented. And I appreciate very much that Councillor Galloway wasn't on the council at the time, but her fellow Heaton councillors, Councillor Bob Allen and Councillor Andy Morgan, certainly knew about the regime change, and they certainly had ample opportunity to have their say throughout this 60-day period, as they well know. So it's either they've misled you or you've not asked them. That's nothing to do with me, that's up to you to sort out. But finally, Madam Mayor, we've again, and I mentioned this last time at the last council, we again see a ridiculous charade, and this is what it's becoming, of Conservative councillors rising to their feet, bemoaning cuts in council services, and at the same time supporting the strategy that leads to cuts in council services. You cannot have it both ways. Please think about that before you ask questions in this council where it will lead to an inevitable conclusion to spend more money when we're having to still find cuts. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Warren.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Many volunteers turn out week after week helping to keep our town a cleaner and safer place and saving the council thousands of pounds every year by collecting litter and fly tipping. The council's policy regarding insurance is that volunteers will have their own home insurance to cover any eventualities. However, if volunteers do have a policy in place, many policies, everyone turn over, will be insufficient to cover accident and public liability outside their own home. Does this council accept that a policy needs to be put in place for volunteers with an organisation, for example, like Bolton Green Umbrella, it's hard to say, to ensure both volunteer and public safety?
Councillor Peel.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Slight change of tack. It's a very good question, and I really do thank Councillor Warren for giving me the opportunity to answer it. I hope Councillor Warren will please pass on my thanks to the author of the question. The basic premise of this question is, however, incorrect, and I just need to explain what the current system is before I give you the good news. The current system is that our liability insurance already does include volunteers, but it's on this basis, that the council is aware of and has authorised the planned activity, and number two, that the activity is suitably supervised by a council employee or member who is competent to coordinate the activity. Now that second bit may well be deemed as quite onerous, and that could actually act as an obstacle. This council, and if I may be so bold as to brag, certainly environmental services under my stewardship has seen a huge increase, quite a remarkable increase in volunteers working in this town, such as litter picking. I think it's really uplifting that this is happening in our town, to see people who are wanting and willing to put something back in their community. It is something we should all be very, very proud of. It isn't a replacement for council services. It's people doing their bit to show that they've got pride in their town. So, therefore, Madam Mayor, we obviously recognise this valuable contribution that volunteers bring to our borough, and we've asked our insurers whether we can help further. So I am pleased to be able to announce to Council that the liability insurers have agreed that not all volunteering tasks now need to be under the direct supervision of council employee or member for inclusion under our own liability insurance cover. Now clearly, Madam Mayor, there will need to be safeguarding around this extended arrangement, but we are currently working with our insurers to clarify where the cover can be extended. But I do hope that this move will make volunteering in Bolton an easier and more worthwhile task. Thank you, and thank you for the question.
Councillor Muslim.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have seen over recent years, Bolton, its civic buildings and surrounding areas have been increasingly chosen as a location for a number of films, dramas and soaps, as well as a very famous bread advert. This is extremely welcome. Location shooting can be a lucrative affair. Standard rates quoted by councils on their websites range from £1,500 to £5,000 a day, with small-scale stills and documentaries from £100 an hour. Can the Cabinet member report on how much Bolton has charged for location fees over recent years, where this revenue is reported, where it is shown in the budget, and, considering our very impressive civic buildings and Crescent, which seems to be a favoured backdrop for film and period dramas, what measures are we taking to attract more film and television companies to our town, and as a result provide a very welcome revenue stream? Thank you.
Councillor Zaman.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, first of all, I would like to congratulate Councillor Muslim on your maiden speech. In terms of your question, Bolton has successfully hosted a number of productions, including Peaky Blinders, Last Tango in Halifax, and Bancroft, and secured some income in the form of location fees. There is not clearly a set fee for filming, and decisions about charges is based on the type of activity, disruption, duration, and staff time required. In addition, there is a difference in commercial activity and drama-related productions, and our charges are in line with national structures. I can tell you that we received an income of over £15,000 in relation to productions in the last financial year. So yes, there is greater potential to generate income through a proactive approach to filming, and work is already underway to maximise these opportunities in Bolton. Thank you.
Councillor Parkinson.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, you may recall I asked a couple of years ago, raising concern with regard to the Council holding the staff awards ceremony during normal business working hours. It is hugely important that staff know they are valued, and the staff awards are a hugely important date in the diary when Bolton Council can celebrate its staff and their achievements. But does the leader still believe it is appropriate to hold this function during the working day, when residents of this town still require and have the right to expect a full access to staff and services during normal working times? Does an evening event also not have a more of a sense of occasion? I asked the leader of the council to confirm if she thinks that the timing of this event is still appropriate and when this year's award ceremony will be held. Thank you.
Councillor Zaman.
Madam Mayor, members of the Council, I'm glad that Councillor Parkinson recognises the importance of our annual staff awards, as it is the Council's opportunity to celebrate the hard work and dedication of our staff. To reassure her, all our services have been fully available throughout previous events. We are also grateful for the sponsorship that our partners give us to meet the costs of these awards. After each ceremony, we ask the staff for feedback, which suggests that our staff would like an evening event, so we are currently looking at whether this is possible. Thank you.
Well done, Diane.
Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and members of the Council. At a recent meeting of Heart in the Bolton Arms a week last Tuesday, great joy was expressed by residents attending on hearing the news that the Secretary of State had called for an inquiry into the planning decision of this local authority to approve 1,000 houses and a golf course on the green belt of Bolton Park. They, with the backing of the community, I understand, are making great strides now to employ legal representation on their behalf to have this decision overturned. Also attending was the Member of Parliament for Bolton South East, Yasmin Qureshi, and residents were keen to ask her views on the state of play, as well as ask what she would be doing on their behalf to make their feelings known on this topic as far and wide to the local community and far and wide to the local authority as well. They were happy in the short time the member had to hear reassurance from her that she would be working with members opposite and the leadership, both the planning and the council, to ensure that a change of heart was to be sought from this local authority, and perhaps this planning decision would not be pursued to the fullest during the inquiry. So this is most welcome, and I would ask, what pressure has been brought to bear by Yasmin Qureshi to her Labour colleagues in council to help persuade them that the Bolton Park decision should not be defended in light of the material changes in the very special circumstances this inquiry will cause to timescales around the application to host the Ryder Cup, which I know members were highly swayed by originally. And, please turn over. And can members join me and fellow councillors from the area in calling on John Whittaker and Peel Holdings and all their agents, stated in a recent public letter published in the Bolton News on the 9th of the 8th, 18, to withdraw at this stage the planning application for 1,000 houses and a golf course on Bolton Park in light of the material changes to the special circumstances in regarding to the time of an application for the Ryder Cup due to the inquiry launched by the Secretary of State. Thank you very much.
Councillor Darvish.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Hewitt, for the question. Any application which is contrary to the development plan, and on this occasion building on the Greenbelt, automatically gets referred to the Secretary of State. Therefore, the Council was required to refer the matter to the Secretary of State to see if he wished to consider the application himself, and he has chosen to exercise that power. A call-in inquiry is a different process to an appeal against the refusal of a planning permission. We are yet to hear what the Ryder Cup hosting competition process and timescales will be. I think what Councillor Hewitt was also referring to is, if the application had been refused by Planning Committee, Peel had indicated that they would not be appealing against the decision due to the timescales for lodging their submission for the Ryder Cup event hosting competition. My understanding is that the timescales for a call-in decision differs from a normal appeal, so the processes of the inquiries work very differently. Yasmin Qureshi MP has been very vocal and intense with her lobbying to the Labour group and the Planning Committee members during the planning application stage, and also recently started contacting individual Labour group members asking them to not defend the Planning Committee's decision at the call-in inquiry. It's got to a stage where I actually cross the road, sometimes think about wearing a helmet when I actually see her, having to start avoiding her. As well as the lobbying, she had also arranged a meeting straight after the Planning Committee decision with the head of planning and the head of legal about the conditions on the Planning Committee decision notice, because she was concerned that some of the conditions construed development. I was also present at that meeting. The reality is that Planning Committee has made a decision and officers are duty bound to defend that decision to the Inspectorate. All members can lobby Peel Holdings to ask them to withdraw their application if they want, but planning committee members who approve the application would be foolish to do so. Thank you.
Councillor Hewitt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Members of the Council, and thank you very much for your response. Can I seek reassurance from Cabinet Member that while I welcome the announcement of 2 new schools in the borough and the new school places provide, and that the new school places that they provide, that new sites which have the chance of impacting on local infrastructure, such as roads at peak time, are properly consulted on with the local community and ward councillors, and that proper planning is in place to create additional capacity as required for the local community in terms of roads access, public transport and additional parking as may be required. And can I ask why all ward councillors representing wards that are directly impacted by these additional schools were not briefed and informed?
Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm surprised at that question, actually, from Councillor Hewitt, because it's on planning. He knows a lot of the planning, what goes on in planning with the consultation, but however, here's the answer. Whenever a major building project is undertaken by the local authority or sponsors of a new school, a full planning application is undertaken, and wide consultation with the local community is part of this process. This includes environmental impact, transport, parking, and effects on neighbouring properties. The outcome of these investigations, consultations, will form part of any reports to the planning committee of the council as the projects develop. As part of the preparation for the report to the Cabinet on the 13th of August on the proposed new schools on the Freshfield side, local ward councillors were invited out of courtesy to a briefing, which all 3 Harper Green councillors attended, and many of the points about potential benefits and impact were discussed. Secondary schools draw pupils from across the borough and further afield, so only the ward councillors were consulted with because of the area of the school to be built in. It is their residents who will be affected more. As the project develops, further briefings with ward and neighbouring ward councillors can and will be arranged if necessary. Okay.
Councillor Walsh.
Madam 21st of March will long live in my memory because that's the night that members opposite actually supported a motion that I had put to this council. And I was delighted because what we said on that occasion was that we would refer to a PDG, the use of bottled water in this town hall, replacing it with tap water glasses and look at the alternatives. Given the long hot summer we've had, that could have led to a considerable save in the number of plastic bottles that this council has used in that period. And I wonder why it's taken 5 months for a PDG on such a simple matter, which Councillor Peel was eloquent in his support of at the time, has not yet taken place.
Sorry, Councillor Peel. I'm sorry, I didn't expect it to be so short.
Ditto, Madam. Don't you just love that first line there, supported my motion? I'm surprised the my wasn't underlined there in thick black pen. I can imagine Madam Councillor Walsh grinning from ear to ear as he is doing now as he dipped his quill into his ink pot and penned this question to me tonight. But he's underselling him because in recent months Councillor Walsh has had another motion that's passed through this council, the one referring to Trinity Street, Manchester Road realignment. That went to a PDG. But you've got to be patient, Councillor Walsh. You've got to wait your turn. There's quite a bit, I know you're excited about it, but there's quite a bit of work that's got to work its way towards PDGs. Members opposite will have noticed, Councillor Walsh especially, that this Labour group has taken an approach in recent times that as a rule of thumb, we would support an opposition motion that politely calls for a PDG debate on more subjects, even if we actually disagreed with the original idea, such as Trinity Street, Manchester Road realignment. But this has inevitably led to a bit of a backlog of motions which need to be considered by PDG. But let me also just throw down a warning to members opposite that please don't push us on this goodwill. If a motion does come to this chamber that in its narrative seeks to abuse us with untruths and then asks politely